Ja, god eftermiddag och varmt välkomna in och lyssna på våra unga som idag kommer att prata om deras roll i våra så kallade hållbara livsmedelssystem, eller det vi ämnar få bli hållbara livssystem. Som producenter, konsumenter, innovatörer och forskare. Och det här var en kort introduktion så ni ska förstå vad det här seminariet handlar om, för vi kommer gå över på engelska. Vi har engelska talare. Men är det så att ni under den här stunden vill ställa frågor så går det jättebra att ställa dem på svenska. På det här seminariet pratar vi 3 språk, så vi är väldigt inkluderande. So, welcome to this seminar on youth in sustainable and inclusive food systems. And this is a seminar organized by the Swedish International Agricultural Network Initiative, SIANI, and World Food Programme and Agroforesty Network here. Yes. My name is Madeleine Fogde, and I'm director for SIANI. Unfortunately, my colleague Alice, who was supposed to moderate this session, fell sick this morning, so you have to bear with me, and I hope we will have a pleasant hour anyhow. I would like now to set the stage for you, so you get a little bit of an understanding that... is it changing? We are introducing you into the context of youth, and you will see we have all these nice speakers, and I will come back to them later. So, youth. This is one of the biggest part of our population right now. And according to UN, we count youth, the people that are between 15 to 24 years old. But this differs a lot. So here in Sweden, for our farmers organization, we count them up to 40 years old. And in the African Union, up to 34. So it really differs. But what is then youth? It's the transition from dependency to interdependency. And it's very important to keep this in mind, that this is actually a period of transition. But we know that this part of the population is growing, and this part of the population is the one that we count on will solve all the problems that we are organized for today. So this is what our problem solvers for tomorrow. But you also have to understand when we talk about youth, as you see here on the stage, it's quite a diverse group, but it's even more diverse outside of this tent, outside of Almedalen, and outside of Sweden. It all depends on the gender, your ethnicity, where you live, what kind of educational level you have. So it's super diverse. And today, so what are they facing now? Well, there are big challenges right outside the tent. We have pandemics, we have restriction that was caused by the pandemic that really hurt and put this generation on a hold because it affected their education. And we are now talking about an educational deficit. We have environmental degradation, biodiversity loss, war, inflation, population growth, and increasing unemployment. All these challenges are very much related not only to this group, but also to our food systems. And they are interlinked to how we solve our food systems. So food systems is everything that we produce, the inputs, the processes, infrastructures, and activities that relates to production, processing, distribution, preparation, and consumption of food. We all know that this food system that we have today is not really very functional. We have far too many people that starve, that have to face going to bed every day without food. And this group of people is increasing as we speak because of the war in Ukraine and because of the high inflation, which is affected. It's a consequence of the war, but also of the pandemic. And we know that... So this called on the General Secretary for the UN last year to organize a food system summit, recognizing that we need to do something about the food systems. It's not only that it's a bad distribution, but it also consumes far too many of our resources very unsustainably. And during this system summit, which engaged millions of people in many, many countries, and all these countries has a pathway how to transform this food system into a more sustainable food system, they all agreed that we can do something about it. And if we get food system right, it will be easier for us to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. So that is also a reason why we are here and talking about food system, and young people. So the young people in the food system, this is something that is very current. It's very discussed and brought to the table and the agenda. And right now in Rome, we are discussing implementation guidelines for how can we involve young people so that they can use their potential and contribute to the transformation of food systems. But that requires collaboration on different levels. But first of all, as a foundation, we need to recognize that young people are agents. They are not objects. They have their agency. They need equal treatment, and they need their rights. That is the foundation. Then you can come a little bit longer and you look at how this then will translate into employment, resources, knowledge, and innovation. And on the highest level, this will be then very contributive to the goals, but also to well-being, because that's what we want at the end of the day. We want people to live well, to develop, and live in a peaceful and democratic world. That's the aim of most of our work, anyhow. Yeah, so with this very short introduction, we have now come to what happened. This was not what was supposed to happen. Yeah, sorry, no, it's okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So in the food system, we have a producer, consumers, the innovators, entrepreneurs, and even policymakers. We don't have the policymakers here today, unfortunately. We should. They're outside. Maybe some are in the room. But we have otherwise these different actors represented. And our panel today, we will hear from Hanna Sjölund, Policy and Advocacy Coordinator in Biskogen, Naola Dungaoli, Chief Business Development Officer in the Beta Blockers, Jenna Senecal, CEO, Sanitation 360, Amin Ben, Steering Committee, World Wildlife Fund, Sweden, youth, what do you call? Youth section? Yeah. Exactly. Karin Jemtin, the General Director at SIDA, and then, of course, me. Yes, so let's go over to Hanna. Welcome, Hanna.
Thank you.
Yeah. So today is a very important day. It's the International Day of Cooperatives, farming cooperatives. And you are representing two organizations that organizes cooperatives and farmers in Eastern Africa. And during this spring, you had the opportunity to do a survey with the younger members of your organizations. And I would like you to tell us a little bit about that and the outcome, because unfortunately we couldn't bring your representatives in, but you can tell us about the survey and the challenges they face right now after the pandemic and with climate change. Yeah.
Yes, as you did in your already told in the presentations, there's not a lack of challenges. And I think the common denominator really is uncertainty. So in this survey that we did with over 100 respondents, foremost in Kenya, they outlined what uncertainties that they face in a farming situation. And really, first of all, it's rain, when it will rain and how much it will rain, and what effects that would have on crops, looking at flooding, but also looking at drought. And then in turn, knowing when to plant, planting too early or planting too late, and then you risk not being able to sell your produce or export your produce at the right time, such as what young avocado growers have told us. And also what the young respondents have informed us about is that it makes revenue very unpredictable, not knowing how much money you will get, and that in turn increases vulnerability and can lead to poverty, and then the social and economic factors linked to that. Access to land is a clear issue as well for youth, because the older generations, they might have the land, and then for youth it's harder to access and then to do that long term. Then also linking, I thought, what you said about the food crisis as well. I think what's at global level a difficulty is also that globally there's a reliance of up to 75% on only 12 crops and 5 meat animals in the world, and that's not sustainable. So if we look at then going from challenges to opportunity, in a way there's a clear opportunity now to make agriculture more local, more diverse, investing in agricultural practices and crops that are more diverse and local and that can be pest and drought resistant. And here they clearly linked it to education, that education, knowing how to go about this, is key. And one way that we, obviously from Agroforestry, identify is agroforestry, of how where the trees provide an opportunity they can store carbon and water in the ground, also providing shade for crops, attracting pollinators, and it's really creating this tightened system. And it's something that we see as an opportunity to invest in, and also something which can act as a way to create more sustainable green jobs for young people.
Yeah, thank you, Hannah. I think we go over and listen a little to Jenna, and we come back with more questions too a little bit later. So Jenna, you are a researcher, but your research was so intelligent and sharp, and you breaking news all over. So you started a company now to make sure that people start to use your products. And it's something that really can assist to transform our food system and get it more independent from fossil fuels and mineral fertilizers that are actually a product of a fossil fuel. So, and Jenna, please tell us a little bit about your ideas and your challenge.
Sure. So I work with toilets, which is always a fun topic in an audience. Each one of us is going to the bathroom multiple times a day. And what we don't think about is the resources that are in our pee and our poo. And what happens is at the field, we apply a fertilizer that contains nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, etc. And as the plants grow, they take up these nutrients, we harvest these plants, and then we eat these plants. So quite literally, we are what we eat, and then what we eat is what we excrete. And the exact same compounds that were used to grow the food that we consumed are now in our excreta. And right now, we don't view this excreta as a resource. We view it as a waste. It's estimated that only 20% of our municipal wastewater goes through any types of wastewater treatment plant. So you can imagine how this is contributing to the spread of disease. But only 7% goes through a wastewater treatment plant that actually removes the pollutants that are contributing to the algae bloom that we have out in the Baltic Sea right now. So what Sanitation 360 does is we take our excreta, we transfer it into a usable fertilizer with conventional farming equipment so that we can enable a circular economy within the sanitation sector, but also address these other challenges that we're facing with food shortages and access to fertilizer. So instead of us being dependent on these foreign nations for fertilizer imports into Sweden, we can actually better manage the natural resources that we have here.
What would you say about countries in developing the world? What is the potential there?
The potential in sub-Saharan Africa is even greater than Sweden. So in Sweden, we can substitute about 25% of the mineral fertilizer that we're using now. And that's because from the field until we ingest it, there's losses, there's food waste along the line. So we can replace up to 25%. In sub-Saharan Africa, where access to fertilizer is difficult, and it's getting more difficult with the rising costs, we can replace 100%. 100% in some areas.
100%, so we can produce 100% more food. Yeah, a little bit like that in Africa,
yeah.
Per yield. Yeah, good. Just to get the perspectives, because it sounds little here, but it can be quite big somewhere else. Now we are going to Ethiopia to reach out to some enterprise and young people who start an enterprise. Naul Adunga Oli from Beta Blockers, he will join us later. But right now we will see a small film about entrepreneurship in Ethiopia. Please.
In 2021, DTU Skylab Food Lab, in partnership with World Food Programme and Danida, engaged with African innovators in promoting food security. Here's one example.
Hi, I'm Kirubel Ngdorg, the Managing Director at the Beta Blockers Initiative. I'm a fourth-year pharmacy student at Addis Ababa University, Ethiopia, and we are currently working on the Fabali project.
My name is Naula Dunya, and I am a fourth-year student at Addis Ababa University. I am studying pharmacy. I am now the Director of Finance and Communications. Our products are biscuits, and they are very nutritious. We make them from locally sourced crops. Children are facing malnutrition due to different problems, due to conflicts and shortage of food. So we are fulfilling the need for protein. So instead of eating meat and eggs and other things, we provide the protein amount children needs daily. We use locally sourced crops, barley and faba beans. They are largely produced in Ethiopia, so we directly get them from the farmers, and we change it into our products. So when we buy the raw materials, they are very cheap.
Instead of eating products with less nutritional significance, children will get the chance to consume our products where they are at school, either at breakfast or lunch. So this is one of the most important marketing strategies we intend to employ.
So, Naul, are you with us? Are you with us? Hi.
How are you?
Well, we are fine, you know, why we miss you, and we hope that you can join us in the future event. So we are really impressed. We know that these biscuits are really important for undernourished children. But I would like us to know more about, you know, the opportunities and innovation and the entrepreneurship that you and your colleagues are involved in. How do you see business develop with this? With your ideas and your skills and also the challenges that you face.
Thank you very much. Today is a particular honor for me to attend such a historic and an important event in the world. My name is Naula Dunya Oli, and I'm currently living in the capital of Ethiopia, Addis Ababa. Let me share with you a short story about myself. I was born in a little town called Kamise. Kamise is found in the northern part of Ethiopia, province called Wallo. As you may know, in the 1970s and 80s, the biggest famine in Ethiopia was affecting Wallo area in Tigray. I am from that place where many children face lack of adequate and proper nutrition. When I was born, the problem of famine was not like in the 1980s, but it still existed. So I remember being provided the biscuits donated by the World Food Program and other partners. Fortunately, my family moved out to the capital city, and I got the chance to get a proper nutrition and a proper education, unlike my peers. This has been a major challenge in my life. My dream since was to feed Ethiopian children, but the question was how? The answer for this is through innovation and entrepreneurship. When I joined the university, I found a diversified people with different backgrounds. But I met 3 boys who shares my dream, who are committed and energetic. That's how the Beta Blockers PLC was founded. Our main goal was to find a local solution to an international issue called malnutrition. So by collaborating with institutions such as the World Food Program, Danish Technical University, we prototyped 4 products for mothers, for lactating mothers, for pregnant women, for children, and for infants. Our world today is growing very fast. By 2050, the population is expected to surpass 9 billion, which means 60% more production of food is required. In 2015, the population of Ethiopia is expected to double, which means twice the production of food is required in Ethiopia. The question is the current situation, is the current practice enough for the future? The answer is no. In Ethiopia, for example, the unemployment rate is about 27%, with the youngsters less than 30 years of age accounts for 70%. Here is opportunity. 2/3 of the Ethiopian land, which is arable, has not been touched. What is required is to bring the young to agriculture through innovation and entrepreneurship. This is what we have done. We observed the problem We researched, we immersed ourselves in product development. So agri-food is the future of our youngsters if it's assisted with a proper technology, knowledge, and policy. So if agriculture and food sectors can be assisted, opportunities are a lot with innovation and entrepreneurship, such as creating a lot of jobs for those 27% who are unemployed. We can get high productivity and influence over others' lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This is a very important contribution to our seminar. And thank you for joining us online. And we might come back to you, so hang on a little bit. But I want now to talk a little about young consumers. And Amin Ben here, he comes from the World Wildlife Fund. And we know that you work with WWF Sweden Youth. You work with Eat for Change as a movement. You mobilize young people around the world, I guess, because while you are worldwide. So please tell us. I mean, the stage is yours.
So the Eat for Change is like a European financed project with Worldwide Fund together with several other partners. And the thing is, the goal is to try to engage young people into living a more sustainable lifestyle in accordance to their food choices. And for example, we were in Brussels during 2021, and when we were there, then I was there with 50 young people, and we were gathered there and trying to learn about how to influence politicians and policymakers, and how to forward policies and how the whole entire process goes through. And part of that was like that. What was involved into it was getting to know about like how the food system works, how greatly affects the environment, and those type of things, and also learning how to like certain ways to actually like impact, because it's hard impacting in your own way or by yourself as an individual, but we got to know how you can get together with other organizations and forward certain policies and push politicians on acting on those policies as well.
Yeah, thank you. We hopefully can come back for you again. But now, Karin, you said you wanted to get to learn something new when you opened up this tent today. So how about this? What do you...
No, I've learned a lot over this, 23 minutes. And I also reflected that I still remember something that was said in a SIANI seminar some years ago, actually. And that was the medium age of a farmer on the globe. At the time, I think it was 60 years, if I remember correctly. And I was actually shocked. I thought it was much lower. So I learned a lot. I learned 12 crops, 5 animals. Fertilizers from pea to poo, 100%. They don't need any fertilizers to be imported, so inflation would not have an impact on those countries. Eat for Change, I'll take that with, and bring, as I said, 60 years as a medium age for farmers. Bring the youth to agriculture. So I've learned a lot from everyone thus far.
Yeah, that's good. And I wanted to recall this. Young people's participation, and you were with us here 2017, and we put you against the wall and said, these people, they are so important for us achieving Agenda 2030. So did you change anything at SIDA in regards to that? Was it something you brought back, and can we see some changes?
Yeah, I think we can actually. We are working more directly with organizations, youth organizations in different parts of the world. One example of that is what I said earlier, and that is that we supported young people to participate in the Stockholm Plus 50, the climate conference that took place in Stockholm early June. And that was, of course, climate, biodiversity, and farming is, of course, closely linked to each other. So some of the points that this youth delegation came up with actually is around sustainable production of food. But we're also supporting in Uganda youth organizations that have developed a national strategy for youth employment in agriculture, and there are other examples.
Yeah, it's very important. We see actually this change, but then when we ask the young people here, they feel it also. They are invited to participate, and they get support from, but we still have some miles to go. And maybe, Hanna, you have some reflections also on policy and how that can help these young people in your organizations, and what is missing a little bit. You have to be very short. We don't have that much time, but a phrase on how they see themselves. Are they active? Are they invited? Do they want to do more?
Yes.
Yeah.
To both. I think often it's the case that the youth are invited, but then their asks and perspectives are not always taken on board. And if you look at then binding agreements, being heard, but then actually included, and don't, as you mentioned as well, Karin, on biodiversity, climate change, agriculture, that's not, politically, that's often treated in silos. But for the farmer, that's clearly, of course, interconnected. So if you look at, for example, this coming autumn, you have the UNFCCC COP27 on climate, and you have the CBD COP15 on biodiversity. Include agriculture, both as a factor and as a solution, especially when it comes to climate, because I think that's the most important thing. And if you look specifically at what Sweden can do, there's currently a deforestation regulation under negotiation at EU level, focusing on crops such as coffee and cacao, which is crops that are grown by organizations that we are part of our partners at Agroforesty. And there is a clear possibility to look forward to the future for the young farmers and create a good situation for what crops grown in which circumstances, for instance, then linking it to agroforestry.
Yeah, and
that was slightly longer than one phrase.
Okay,
sorry.
yeah, thanks, Hanna. This is really interesting, and I want to jump to Naul because we don't know how long you will be with us online. But Naul, you mentioned that innovation, and it is mentioned also in the global policy that this is really key policy theme. And do you feel that policies are supporting young people in Ethiopia to develop and to take, have a space for innovation, and that you are supported also in the policy?
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, it's very challenging for young people here in Ethiopia.
Okay, or maybe. All right. Let's hope that now it comes back. Jenna, also as an innovator, like now in Ethiopia, how do you see the policies? What are the restraints as a young entrepreneur, agripreneur, innovator, researcher, trying to get forward with your ideas and products?
So as an entrepreneur, I find that the Swedish government does a lot to support us. So there's a lot of these incubators all across Sweden that are providing soft money to help us get off our feet. Even at SLU, the Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences, they have an organization there to help researchers like myself get the first 200,000 in order to speak to lawyers, develop a business plan, and get the ball rolling. So in terms of an entrepreneur, I think Sweden is an amazing place to be. In terms of our field specifically, there's a lot of change at the policy level that needs to come in order to better manage the natural resources that we have and have greater impact on climate change.
Thank you. Yeah, good. So, over to you also now on the policy, and how do you feel? I know we are going to have a seminar later in the week about youth washing. So how do you feel about policymakers and how they take your young people and your initiatives? And do you hear that people listen to you and that you?
The thing is, we're gonna try to talk so much or as much as possible about it, but we have this project #Stoppa youth washing, and it's about trying to stop youth washing because most people, they bring young people into their platforms, their events, their seminariums, their panels or whatever forum they choose, just because to get a nice PR, just to get visible with these youth and show that they care, but they don't take into consideration their thoughts and their opinions and stuff like that. So that's something we're trying to push on, to actually try to take these young people more seriously and try to incorporate or take into account what they actually have to say about certain things. But we also try to focus on first teaching the young people why they should try to care more about this environment and try to care more about sustainable food choices and so on, and sustainable food lifestyles, and afterwards try to teach them how they could work in accordance, or how they could individually first or together with other organizations impact these food systems and so on, and then afterwards what they can do. So how they can do it, and then what they can do it. So why, what, and how is the three major points we're trying to work with. But yeah, if there's something I'm trying to forward during this seminar, it's that youth washing is something that should be taken seriously, because it is something that politicians have started to use more and more. And young people, they should, just because they're younger or they don't have as much knowledge or whatever, it shouldn't mean that they don't have a place to speak, because it's still their future that these politicians are discussing about.
Yeah, it's definitely so. So Karin, we met then 2017 and now it's 2022. You listen to this, there are very nice development, we can see that. But there are also things that we have to take in consideration. So how do you see SIDA now up to 2030, and the work you do with young people? And I would ask you also, if we meet in 5 years' time, what changes will we see? We don't know, but can be some changes, but some reflections of that.
It's a challenging time we're living in and working in, all of us. And I think that maybe apart from continuing to support young participation, youth participation in different kinds of global meetings like the Stockholm Plus 50 or other meetings. I know there's a Swedish representative in the high-level political forum in the United Nations next week, or maybe even two. Not many other countries are bringing with young people to their global delegations. So by pushing other countries, but also being a good example, we can influence them. But I think that maybe more importantly for us at SIDA, it is to support young youth organizations at country level. And we are trying to find new ways of being even more flexible at country level for small and new organizations, because I know that we can be cumbersome sometimes in our administrative requests. And we will have to support youth organizations to make it possible for them to actually get support from Swedish development aid. And that is, I would like to say that they are not only deciding about your future, or we are not only deciding about your future, but also about your present. And therefore you should be part not only to decide about the future, but also about the present. So I have to contradict you a bit.
And listen here, we are really happy because you are with us now again, and so we were talking about policy and facilitating for young innovators and entrepreneurs, and we wanted to hear how when you meet policymakers, are you in contact with them? Do they listen to you? And is there anything also, what would help you to have a straighter collaboration with or dialogue with the policymakers, maybe?
Of course, sorry for the connection. Of course, since we started working in this business 2 years ago, we have seen a lot of challenge in terms of policy, in terms of getting access to different amounts of help from the government and from different institutions. But what we have done is we said we don't have to stop. We have to continue. We have to prototype everything with our facility, with what we have. Fortunately, we are learning in the university, so we have the access to different laboratories because we are prototyping. And also we have been competing in different competitions. So we have got the chance to go to the Danish Technical University in Denmark to prototype our products. So there are many challenges in terms of policy, in terms of helping the youngsters, giving the chance to innovate, to promote themselves, to promote their business. It was a bit difficult for us in terms of getting finances, in terms of getting the land to work on. It was very difficult, but we haven't stopped, because innovation can't be a reality without prototyping, without knowledge, without skill development programs. So the other thing I want to say is the importance of traveling. Young people should travel, should see the existing methodologies, observe the problem firsthand, as we have started working this from our lives based on our experiences. Personally, I have traveled to different areas, to farmers. So this is very important. So my request is we should advocate for policy changes. We should work on sustainable future, such as in agroecology, in organic food systems. So these are very important that we should follow. So at last, I just want to say the value of knowledge, because you can see us, we are pharmacists, we have pharmaceutical knowledge, of course, but we want to navigate through nutrition. So for that, being in the university, working with institutions such as universities and other colleges, it has helped us a lot. So universities are an instrument. We should focus on researching, promoting sustainable future. So I want to end up this by saying that there is a Swedish quote saying, getting together is the beginning, keeping together is a stepping forward, and working together is a success. So working in group, working together with friends, with partners, with different institutions is a very important, even though policies might not elevate these kind of things. If the laws are very difficult, we should work together in order to sustain our future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Those words are very important. And SIANI is a network, and we have been networking together and pushing this agenda for quite some time now. But we have actually had success. And one of the successes is that Sweden, in the pathway to sustainable food system that the Swedish government passed last year, there's written that young people should always participate in these delegations from now on. So it's something that we pushed for a long time, and now it's written, and we could also see the participation in Stockholm Plus 50, probably some resonance of that as well. So we are pushing that, and we really hope that we're doing more than youth washing, but we can only do it together with all of you. And now it's time for the audience as well. Do you have any exciting and difficult questions to our panelists? So I would like you to feel free. And as I said, ni kan fråga på svenska om ni vill, det är inga problem. Ni behöver inte känna att det är kanske lite konstigt att prata engelska. Någon fråga? Okej. Ja. Finns det någon mick eller? Ja.
Yes, I wonder, Mali in West Africa, there's a military interventions, but I heard Diakonia is working also in the civil society. Is that the case about SIDA? Is any interventions there? In Mali, West Africa has become one of our, it was used to be East Africa more, but now West Africa is more interested in involvement from Sweden.
Yes, the Swedish development aid, we work in Mali, Burkina Faso and Liberia with long-term development aid, and then also with humanitarian aid in other parts of Western Africa, but also supporting the multilateral system. So probably via FAO and UNDP we work with also in the countries there, but Mali definitely, yes.
Any more questions? Yeah, we are about to close, and we don't have so much time left. But you are here, and this is the Politician Week in Sweden. So even though we don't have politicians here at the event, but what would you like to hear in the speeches now from tonight, and for that would, please your ears and relate to the topic that we have discussed today? Hanna, what would you like to hear our parliamentarians raise here during Almedalen?
Well, if I have a dream wish list, building on the ups and downs of Swedish development aid this spring, one thing that I would want to ensure in this context is post-elections, don't cut down on climate finance, don't cut down on climate-related ODA, and include agriculture in it as a solution, and ensure that looking at what organizations you support as well, make sure that the money and the financial support reaches the young farmers at the very end. That's something that I would want to push for. And then I would want to give a heads up for them for next year. The work is already started, but if we look at sustainable food systems, the Commission is currently looking into a sustainable food systems framework, and then make sure that is an inclusive process. Make sure that the voices for the future and the present are included there, and that we get to see some real action in creating a sustainable food system, not only here in Sweden and the EU, but looking at the countries that we import from. Because the EU is the third biggest importer of food in the world, so there's definitely stuff to do there.
There's something to do and something to lobby for, and together we can lobby better, I guess. Yes. Okay, Jenna, you have another wish list, I guess.
I can echo some of that, and more specifically, I'd like to call on the government to actually enact policies that force us to recycle the nutrients that are in our wastewater.
Right now, they are not.
There's no mandate right now.
No, okay. So we need to look at that regulation, and yeah. Okay, Amin.
The thing is, I think that it's getting more common for politicians to be taking the climate more seriously, because it has become a key topic to discuss and a key topic to forward. But the thing is, I think that the goals that have been put up are too far away. They are too far away, and therefore they are not being taken as seriously as it is needed to be done. Because the thing is, we have started to work on these type of things, but it is already getting really stressful and already getting too late. So putting up goals that are far too behind or far too long ahead will just make these type of things a bit harder. So I would like to see them actually putting realistic goals with plans that would actually work, not just putting on a far away 2040 or 2050, whatever this is going to happen, without actually putting up the plan in order for it to happen.
Yeah, we can't only put up goals. We have to have realistic plans and sharpen the surveillance of how we do, Now, from you in Ethiopia, then, if you would say something to the Swedish politicians here, and for us in Europe, what would your wise word be, and what would you like politicians to concern about? Oh, he disappeared. So sorry. I guess, Karin, you will take the orders from the politicians, but maybe you have a wish list also a little bit.
Yeah, I would like to have. I would put two things on that wish list. The one is, of course, finance in general, aid, but also private, catalytic private finance is important to have a small, to kickstart small-scale enterprises of different kinds. But the second part I would like them is to recognize in their speeches that the solutions are there. You have described a very smart solution. Noel has described the solution in Ethiopia. The solutions are there. It's only for them to finance.
It's only for them to finance and make policies. Okay, so I think we have some, maybe some minutes but left, and I just want to reflect to you, also to Karin, to say that actually agriculture is a private business. That's really the food system, and it's a private system with a lot of actors, and we have, of course, the policies are very important and regulations, but the actors within it are, I would say, in the majority private. But it's also very important that there is this collaboration, so we build up a strong partnership between organizations like Hanna's, between the entrepreneurs, between agencies like SIDA and young organizations, and also the private sector that are supporting. So it's only this way that we will achieve this desired transformation of our food system. And today, I think our food system is more stressed than it has been for a long, long time. And it's only in common and with understanding and supporting each other that we actually will make some good steps forward and towards a more food secure world, hopefully. Yeah, with those words, which are very positive in one way, but also deceptive because of our reality, I would like to thank all these great panelists today that came, and thank you to the audience, and thank you to the audience on YouTube also. And I would like you to continue the dialogue with us on our websites and follow our other events during Almedalen. And thank you also to our interpreters that make their messages more inclusive, and we hope to have more groups working together with us. So thank you very much.